So, what's going on with Picard? Did that take off?
Shit.
Professional.
No.
Is Patrick Stewart enough all on his own? Because he is a pretty good actor and he's a likable person. What could he have done?
No, but is Lenin, the Russian people loved Lenin, but at one point he was dead, so they said, what do we do? That they just said, well, let's turn him into like a dummy.
I know where this is going.
So we'll say it's a miracle he's not decomposing.
He's not
dead.
What Patrick Stewart
He's
thought
dead, but he's
was
not
going to
decomposing.
happen.
So it's like Lenin, the afterlife, but the afterlife is Lenin is the Russian people will line up in endless queues to look at a wax figure, and they will suspend their disbelief and tell themselves that is Lenin, and by the grace of God, by a Soviet miracle, he is not decomposing. He's laying there the same as he was the day he died.
Is it some Russian Orthodox thing, or I mean, what do they think is happening? Is it like a saint thing?
It's like being dumb.
Well, we have Florida, so I can't,
But
really,
did you know that Patrick Stewart
anything.
played Lenin in a biopic?
No. I associate him with Star Trek and the Kennywick Man, and that is it.
So you have no idea how
Maybe
on the
also
money the comparison to Lenin is, although he's a much older man now than Lenin was when he passed away. So his body is in more of a greater state of decomposition than Lenin's.
Did you just call him a decomp?
No, his body is.
Did they pick him up at the body
I don't want to say
farm?
decomposition because Lenin's body, the story is it didn't decompose. It's just a miracle. I'm saying Patrick Stewart's body is actually more aged than Lenin's body allegedly still is. So Lenin's body, as it sits today in Moscow, is younger than Patrick Stewart's current body. I can't believe I'm saying this shit. Okay.
Cut. Cut.
What are you, Dave Coulier? Cut it out. That hack, that Canadian hack, come to my window.
That's Melissa Etheridge. No, It was.
I wanted to ask
Alanis
you about
Morissette.
Mariah.
He did get her to go down on him in a theater, so all that cut this out. That worked.
Have you seen him? I believe it.
Why do you say he's really ripped?
Well, I'm saying he's a Canadian
Where did
hunk
you see him?
who's actually not Canadian. That's a small technical detail about Dave Coulier. When people imagine who's the most Canadian person you could possibly imagine, obviously people think of Dave Coulier. He was born
Jordan Peterson.
Wrong. Dave Coulier was born in Michigan. He's not Canadian.
But I don't know. I can see Michigan like trading for Canada. But Canada would probably decline.
So you're just basically making this sweeping, insulting statement about Michigan. You're saying Michigan.
We'll take Vancouver.
You're not America. You are actually part of Canada.
Canada doesn't want it.
Or just Upper Michigan, the part people are surprised to know is actually a part of Michigan in geography class.
I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people forget parts of America.
Anyway.
Michigan's not
Mariah,
the popular part of America.
Mariah, I didn't want to talk about Michigan and Dave. I did want to talk about Dave Coulier. I didn't know I wanted to.
Poutine behind the Tasty Freeze?
I didn't know I wanted to, but...
Are there Tasty Freezes in Canada? What do they have? I know they have McDonald's and it serves poutine.
When I think about taste, things that are
Poutine is
tasteful
gravy and
and
French
tasty...
fries with cheese.
Okay, there's tasteful and tasty. That's a good positive emotion. And then there's freezing.
What?
How can freezing be tasty? Freezing is like what happens...
I thought you were talking about tasteful jokes. We can't talk about Dave Coulier like getting double dicked at the Tasty Freeze.
What are you talking about? I cut that out, so it doesn't even exist. No.
Did we though?
Tasty freeze. Freeze is what happens right before you die. So why is it juxtaposed with the word tasty?
It's also what happens when you're really, really afraid of something. People freeze up like it's the biological response, flight or fight.
So is that what Alanis
Like,
Morissette did when she first met Dave Coulier?
She froze up and then fell on his dick.
And was it near the bathroom at, like, a skating rink in Canada? Like, oh, who's that standing in the shadow? That mullet.
Do you think she
the mullet catches the light in such an alluring way, but the mullet is connected to something that scares me.
Do you think she ever, like, sang at an ice skating rink when she was doing the sort of pop?
I think I don't care. I think I've never heard anything that elicits less interest from me than whether or not Alanis Morissette has sung at an ice skating rink. I wanted to
Do you think she'd sing at an ice skating rink now, or is that beneath her?
No, she needs the money.
She's not thanking India anymore.
She's like Chico Marx. She needs the money.
Did he really, though? I mean,
Chico?
Chico seemed like he was okay. Didn't they produce a lot?
I think he was okay because the more
Popular Brothers
set him up.
Maybe.
Anyway, Mariah, I wanted to ask you about "Come to My Window." In my childhood, when that song was released and she sort of splashed onto the scene, she was kind of an adult woman. So does an adult...
Was she actually an adult woman?
She was an adult...
Did she just had very adult features?
Both. She was like a smoky-voiced... She could have been like the a widow on like an 80s drama, like a Scarecrow and Mrs. King. She could have been Mrs. King. That's what she looked like to me as a child. Do you remember that show?
No.
But does an adult, a grown person, romantically tell another grown person not to come to my door, come around the back of the house to the window? Why would you tell one adult tell another adult? I mean, if you're that age, you're in charge of your... Unless you think the person is like low status and you don't want the neighbors to see them, so it's like an insult.
Wait.
You see what I'm saying?
But I mean, is she saying that she's still living at her parents' house?
No, but if it's like a teeny...
Is this like a failure to launch?
It's one thing if it's like a teeny bopper song and they're saying, come to my window so the parents to see, but that was an adult woman telling another adult
who are those Twilight
man
people?
to come to her window.
Is it like when Bella told Robert Pattinson to come to her window and he came and just stared at her and then said that he wanted to drink her blood and kill her?
I'm proudly and heroically not on a first name basis with characters in that universe.
It's really, really good, though. It's so funny.
It isn't.
It is.
I just want to say...
It's really so bad that it is the funny bad.
A window is one of the worst ways you could get in and or out of a house. Because that's just like knocked knees, scraped elbows.
We saw that in the Birdcage when Gene Hackman was trying to avoid the press. He was a senator who was disgraced and he was trying to escape his house without being seen. And he almost died trying to get out of his window. In the wintertime. He
was also the character, Gene Hackman himself, and the character was in a Joe Biden state of decrepitude, so he wasn't like a fit, normal person. If Joe Biden tried to get out of a window at this point... Would Joe Biden
be great in drag?
He would turn into...
Would it be the same thing, like he's like a very large woman that was a little intimidating? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, definitely. If you're seeing...
A little scary. Talk about scary things.
If you're seeing that in your mind right now...
What if Joe Biden in drag came to your window? Come to me. I almost did it.
What if he came to like a little black kid's window and said, will you come to the pool, touch my legs?
But he's got the Gene Hackman drag, that triangle hair with the full face.
No, let's not think about it.
Touch my legs.
Anyway.
I don't know who I am.
I was going to say... I mean, if the house were on fire and my only way to get out was through the window, I might just stay. It's just so like uncomfortable getting through a window. So if she's really loves this other man, if she really loves this other person, does she want...
Why did you say that?
Would she what? I don't know. She wasn't out at the time, was she?
But she's out now.
Was she singing about a man or a woman?
Obviously a woman. Even when she wasn't out, I kind of knew it was a woman. Isn't there a girl in the video? And Melissa Etheridge is singing to her?
What was her other big hit at the time? I'm the only one who will walk through the fire for you.
Yeah, I know the songs.
That's another issue. Because if you say that, I'm the only one to walk through the fire. It's saying, I know everything about you. I know every other person you've ever met, and I'm better than all of them.
Wait, and everyone you're gonna meet. So it's kind of like a threat.
It's like, how do you know that about me?
Wait, hang on. All of Melissa Etheridge's songs, and I haven't heard all of them, but I'm just gonna make this statement anyway. They're all very stalkerish and possessive.
It's a bit.
They're like they're the thing that people warn you about in relationships.
To be honest,
don't hook up with someone who expresses these sentiments.
To be honest, the mechanics of the sentiment are, you owe me. It's a bit Weinstein-esque. It's like, that's the dynamics of the relationship. I've earned your intimacy,
but
and you can't turn me down.
Time frame of
I walk through the fire with you, and I know everyone you've ever known. No one's done for you what I've done.
Yeah, it's a little extortionist, but it feels like I think that it's still in a time when in history, the 90s, it was the end of that sort of, this is sexy. It's sexy for somebody to be a little dark and threatening. They were asking the big questions, what's going on? What if God were one of us? Yeah. But they'd walk 1,000 miles. I was listening to that the other day. That's very good. I like the Proclaimers. Anyway. Literally said no one ever since 1999. Except for David Tennant. Oh, and all of the old fogies who inevitably pile up in the comments of the any YouTube video saying this is when music was good. I don't get that. Because music, there's not a time in history when it was good. It's always been good and bad. Well, the game has changed completely with the internet, because back then, there was gatekeeping in check. So every year only a few songs could get through the gate, and only a few songs could rise to prominence, so that every song was released, whether it was good or mediocre or bad, just stood out in our minds like this pillar of light. Whereas nowadays... Who let the dogs out? Yes. And others. But nowadays, I feel like hundreds of songs are being released on the internet every single day, possibly thousands. So it's too many songs to even hold in your mind to fathom. So you can't just make that statement like that. There's no good music today. There's as much good music and 10 times as much good music as there ever was. It's just too much of it is being released to even process. Yes, nothing's being pushed to the front. It's like Kate Blanchett in Indiana Jones in The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. At the end, she wants to know. She meets the aliens and says, I want to know. She means, I want to know everything. So the alien is like, okay. I see where this is going. So they put a beam of information straight into Kate Blanchett's mind, and she explodes. And if you were to try to think about every song that was being released constantly, the same thing would happen. You'd explode. I'm just shutting down the argument that there's no good music now. So I'm just telling those people who aren't listening to me. So what's the solution? There is no solution. We don't know how to live in this world. We don't know how to live in a world with this much information constantly. I'm sounding a bit like Jordan Peterson now. No. You're sounding like Elon Musk. You know how you live in this world, you become a cyborg. You adapt to the information. I don't want to. I want to stay a flesh bag. You're wrong. He's going to say you're wrong. What would Mariah say? The person in front of me. I would say I'm open to things. I'm open to many things. You're open to cybernetic enhancements and extensions. I'm open to listening to the Jurassic Park theme during like foreplay. I think that would be good. Just based on all of her film roles and choices, do you think Mila Jovovich would be open to becoming a cyborg? Actually, no. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. She seems to be very interested in playing these characters who are inhabiting these dystopian techno-verses. But when people romanticize something, they aren't really seeing the real thing, and they're often let down by what it actually is. So if she actually got to that point, I think she'd back out. So you're saying J.R.R. Tolkien didn't actually want to leave England and go to a world of volcanoes and fight orcs? I don't know. He didn't look like he could fight orcs.
Yeah, I think he looked like the kind of person that if he left the borders of England, he would just expire. Like, oh, I could only exist there. He'd disappear like the baseball players disappeared in Field of Dreams when they stepped out of the cornfield. J.R.R. Tolkien would just, the moment he stepped in Calais, he would just dissipate. What in God's name were we talking about?
I don't know, but I agree.
I think we were talking about Selma Blair.
Oh,
wait,
sad.
it's 2020. That's impossible.
No, she's very active on Instagram.
Mariah. No.
Okay, anyway, do you want to watch more Lost in Space? Because we were down for it, especially after they ended on
I think, like a lot of people, when we watched the first season, it took me at least half the season to realize that the actor playing the father wasn't John McGinley, the guy from Scrubs.
No, we knew it right away.
That isn't true.
We just don't know who the person who looks like John McGinley is. We do now.
You can't answer for me, Mariah.
Not then.
And I thought that was John McGinley.
But John McGinley looks much older than that. And I think a little shorter.
I think that's the issue. You have a clearer view of what he looks like in your head, and you have more knowledge about him.
You.
So
remember
you can.
Gator, where he gets naked?
No, I don't.
We saw that.
I may have seen it, but I don't remember it. And it might be a strategic misremembering.
Okay.
I mean, it might be good for me not to remember everything John McGinley has done. Just filter out some of it. I think that might make my mind explode. Or maybe he hasn't done that much. I mean, who could you actually say that for? It'd be someone with an exceptionally long resume, like Eric Roberts, someone who just doesn't say no to projects. If you actually tried to hold every film Eric Roberts has been in your mind, you might need to be, put in a home.
Well, you'd have to have seen them and remember them first.
Or you'd start stuttering as much as Eric Roberts actually stutters.
Does he?
He was on a podcast recently and said he's dealt with stuttering all his life, so I'm being terribly insensitive here.
You know more about him than I do. I just know all the jokes we made about him in Best of the Best. And,
Mariah, don't insult me like that. Please.
But I'm serious. Do you want to watch more Lost in Space?
Remember I was talking about gatekeeping earlier? I think some of that's happening on the Netflix platform. I mean, it's like the platform itself has taken into account the issue we were outlining, how there's just so much crap uploaded to the internet every moment of every day. So Netflix is saying, here's a little oasis where you don't have to think about, we've done the gatekeeping. It's a little bit old school. It's a little bit like HBO, the stuff you remember from the 90s. We've filtered out all of the mediocre content, and we're elevating the best of what's available now. You could argue whether or not that's true, because there's certainly a lot of trash on Netflix. So my meaning is that it's so sparse and pared down that if you spend a lot of time on Netflix, you eventually come around to nearly everything that looks half decent. And since Lost in Space is a Netflix produced show and it looks half decent compared to some of the Redbox tier trash they upload to the platform, eventually I will probably end up watching the second season. I just wanted to give you a comprehensive answer. Not because I'm desperate to watch it, but if we just sit down and start watching Netflix again, eventually we're going to watch it, because we're going to run out of things.
Okay, so if we're going to watch it...
Unless you want to start Star Trek The Next Generation again from the first season instead of getting to... how badly do you want to watch Parker Posey walk around in outfits that look like they're made out of antique balloons?
I was going to say garbage bags. She's fashioning ponchos and Zumba outfits out of space. You know what? They kind of have a Star Trek thing going on, where in Star Trek you had to have shiny blankets and towels and outfits that were vaguely metallic and space themed. They have something similar going on Lost in Space, where they have sort of space themed things, and she's got sort of a a space-themed jumpsuit and poncho.
Do you remember?
And leg warmers. It's an 80s vibe.
Do you remember Dumbo's Circus?
Kind of.
Doesn't she look like...
No. I'm thinking of Daniel Day-Lewis, because wasn't like his performance in Gangs of New York vaguely the Panther or whatever it was from Dumbo's Circus?
Just try...
There was like a Cockney animatronic
just
vibe.
Endeavor to match these things up in your mind. Just make sure that you're connecting the right things.
I am.
Otherwise, they might send someone to pick you up.
Wait, no. There's a character that has like a broken top hat, and it's like a funny old like panther or lion type creature, and it's just very...
Yes, everyone can see that. What they can't see is this other thing that you're comparing it to.
Gangs of New York, no one saw it.
No, they've seen that. What they can't see is this other thing you're comparing it to. You're going to have to guide them through the dense fog to this thing you're comparing Gangs of New York to.
I'm saying that his performance in Gangs of New York was very Muppety. It's exaggerated and a little bit...
And what universe did these Muppets inhabit? Did it have a name?
You know what? I just saw a post about there's sort of like a thing where people have, when they were children, even though their televisions were turned off, and this is very poltergeist-ish, their televisions were turned off, but at night they would see Muppets, evil Muppets, come on the TV and talk to them and try to get them to come to the TV. A lot of people have seen this.
Wasn't that just the 700 Club?
But the TV was off. Are you saying this is like godly intervention? You need to hear the story about the resurrected chicken.
Well, did you know that Rosanna Arquette was the original model for the Gelfling from The Dark Crystal?
No, but I could have guessed that.
I just made that up. She wasn't.
I completely accepted that.
You just walked right into it.
I was just... Come on, though. It's easy to walk into that.
And the only person who could deny it is dead. Jim Henson. Rest in peace.
It goes to the grave.
Well, he was... he had established a pattern of doing that because, as you know, Janis Joplin was the model for... she was one of... I can't remember the name of the Muppet with the blonde hair. She was a member of the band.
Yeah, I'm not...
I think the name of the Muppet... The name of the Muppet was Janis. It was Janis the Muppet, and it was just... Is
everybody familiar with the Muppets, though? And I don't mean Muppets as in, like, just a sock puppet. I mean the Muppets.
A lot of old people are.
Hi. Okay.
Sorry.
Is that sorry hashtag
sorry
not
to
sorry?
let you down.
That you didn't let them down. You just told them a harsh truth.
Right. If you remember,
but I remember the Muppets.
If you remember Ronald Reagan saying, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall," and you remember when it was new, when that just happened, you are old.
I'm trying to remember what I remember. Where is my mind?
Don't sing it. Copyright.
Oh no.
That's okay. It didn't have a melody.
But what do you think these Muppets are if they're not that are trying to talk to children through the television? Is there like a Parker Posey vibe? Is it just... Do you think she would try to talk to children through the TV if she could? Is she?
I reject the premise of this moment in the conversation that I should be sitting here trying to explore the feasibility of this phenomenon, that people would wake up in the middle of the night and see Muppets on TVs that they didn't remember having left on, but were now on, and we're showing them Muppets. It just sounds like the premise for like one of those terrible Netflix films I was talking about that I'll never watch.
Do you think some people saw the Muppets and were very put off by it?
Do you know how many horrible, horrible horror movies are on Netflix? Like, you can just go through pages and pages of them that you've never even heard of.
Actually, yes, I've seen that. Not recently, but when I was first exploring Netflix, there seemed to be a lot of really bad horror films.
And the answer is yes. Muppets themselves themselves are quite horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's this thing it's like, oh, it's not a person, it's made out of cloth, but it's a disturbingly...
sentient.
Sentient, and they're carrying the essence of human expressions in a disturbing way, even though it's just cloth. I mean, Jim Henson, you could say he nailed it, but is that good, or is it like he nailed it? Oh my God.
My mind is bad. It's so bad. It's actually going to where some of them actually carrying Jim Henson's essence. Did he christen those Muppets? Was that why he liked Muppets so much? I mean, you'd have to be really into Muppets to do what he did.
And when he died, did they cremate him and like start stuffing the Muppets with his ashes? So are they literally like dolls that carry parts of him, like Voldemort?
Are they
the shards?
Oh, you're saying Horcruxes, but are they like voodoo dolls? Do they have his essence? They must have a lot of different... I heard...
No, that's not how voodoo works. He would have to still be alive, and then damage to the dolls would be felt by the living Jim Henson. But he did.
No, but what if it's like a situation where like a demon is inhabiting a doll?
I think that was an episode of Buffy, wasn't it? It was like a ventriloquist dummy.
Oh my gosh, yes, but he wasn't bad. He wasn't a demon. He was like a demon hunter that got sucked into an evil doll.
God damn it. I don't care that Andrew Yang was on The View, if that's what you're thinking about. I really don't care. I don't care if he went to Subway before he went to The View. I don't care.
I would like to
if
go
he
to
went
Subway.
to Panda Express after he went to The View. Is that,
I would like
is
to go
that
to Panda
insensitive?
Express.
Can I say that? Well, he can go wherever he wants.
I'm not thinking about sensitivity. I'm thinking about the places I'd like to go. I'm hungry.
Well, I'm just saying
You just
Andrew
mentioned
Yang.
two fast food
I can
outlets.
say Andrew Yang can eat at Panda Express.
Wait, are you making a joke about his ethnicity?
No.
He can eat at a Panda Express. He can eat the fuck out of a Panda Express.
But that's what I'm saysaying, Mariah. I'm saying just because he goes to Panda Express doesn't mean anything. Anyone can go to a Panda Express.
Are you saying that he's some kind of pedo because he eats at Subway?
No, what do you mean?
You know, Jared.
So you want to talk about this?
No.
Is this our brand?
No. Do you think that Stevie Nicks listens to podcasts? Because I hear she stays up very late. And if you stay up late, I just imagine you're on your computer a lot listening to things.
I think...
Do you think she watches Game of Thrones on her computer? Do you think she is that witch thing on Game of Thrones?
I think her interest in media and the way she consumes media and her awareness of the way media can be distributed had kind of settled like sediment. It all settled before the podcasting era started, so I don't think she knows about them. I'm saying I don't think she knows about them.
She doesn't grow or change. She's the mountain.
She did,
the landslide.
But the landslide took down. Okay, that wasn't that funny because it's a joke I'm sure millions of people have made. It's the most obvious thing in the world to talk about Stevie Nicks and then
seeing her reflection in a bunch of cocaine.
Because
the snow-covered hills.
The imagery of the song is so silly that it's so easy to connect it to anything you want to. It's like Legos. It just hooks straight in.
It's easy to connect it to drug use and age.
You
are old and you did a lot of drugs.
Well, that's what she was doing at the time, so it perfectly reflects her. They did what the song is supposed to do, which is supposed to...
So it was very obvious what her meaning. It worked. She talked about her life.
It's the life of that's what the artist. What else is an artist supposed to do but just communicate?
A lot of drugs and
but channel the essence of what they are and how they're not necessarily a written statement about what they want you to think they think, but just...
I want a written statement.
What they actually think. That's what art is, just bypassing the word. Unless your art is the word, then I guess whatever.
The word?
Like Tone Loc. He's like a great lyricist. And he was in Blank Check and Ace Ventura.
Mm-hmm.
He was a rapper from the early 90s that had a very deep, smoky voice.
What is he doing now?
I don't know. He could have died in a robbery in 2007 for all I know.
Why a robbery? Did he lose a lot of money in a liquor store? Like is this like an MC Hammer moment? He just blew all his cash.
Milli Vanilli. It's the kind of thing that can happen. Do you know that one of the
they all hit up liquor stores because they all go broke?
Do you know that one of the members of Milli Vanilli, one of the models that was paid to pretend like they were singing, was so on times that were so hard and was so hard up and destitute that he robbed a rich person's house with several other people.
I know that Three Dog Night, something similar. No, but Three Dog Night, something similar happened to their lead singer.
I thought that was just a music video they made, like Daniel's Coming Home.
Mm-hmm.
Eli's Coming Home.
No, that's so bad. That's like a weird Dark Shadows 70s band. Like, what's happening in this video?
I think you're just remembering. No, I think you're just remembering that robbed your time watching that video. That was the robbery.
No, it has a 70s televised feeling to it. Very
Are you saying it's had a lasting positive impact on your life seeing that music video?
No, I forgot it, but it's and it's not positive if I think back on it.
But it all came back in a terrible way when I just prodded the memory.
No, it comes back in nightmares like that.
Oh, it comes back like the Muppets came to those people in the middle of the night, like just the faces from the music video.
No, the Muppets would have an Eli's Home 70s Dark Shadows TV vibe. There's something very dark about the early television shows that were very just they were doing what they could, but there's a quality to it that is dreamlike.
You know what Three Dog Night should have done if they didn't want to have to become if they didn't want to have to become like criminals?
Did they? Did all of them, or just that one dude?
You're the one who's dropping the knowledge on Three Dog Night, so why don't you tell me?
I don't remember this.
So, but you're telling me one of them had to rob.
No,
to
one
live.
of them became a hobo.
Okay, anyway, you know what they should have done? Written their own songs, because all of the songs they became famous for singing were written by other people, so those other people got most of the money for them.
Well,
for example, Randy Newman wrote Mama Told Me Not to Come.
Well, why didn't Randy Newman help him out?
Why should he?
There's a connection.
He made money as a songwriter, that's how it works, and he got his royalties. They made money as performers.
David Bowie helped Iggy. You do that for people.
So why didn't they break into Randy Newman's house and tell them that David Bowie helped Iggy? So why don't you help us? I feel like
did they come to his window?
I feel like Randy Newman already helped them by
what's the lead singer's
writing
name?
that song that they turned into a huge hit. They should have. What they should have done is after that just rolled that success into a few of their own.
It's
tracks.
On the tip of my tongue. What's the lead singer of Three Dog Night? I can't remember his name.
Chuck Negron.
Maybe
they did.
What if he came to your window?
Okay, can I edit? I've decided I don't want to be the kind of person that has that piece of information that quickly. So I'm going to. Can I edit some time in between when you ask and I answered Chuck Negron? I don't want to know that fast. That is so unflattering.
No, can you give it to me though? Because I wish I'd known it that fast.
I'm more upset about this than when you talked about Andrew Yang eating at Subway, and you talked about Jared. You know, Jared is being beaten up in prison. Do you endorse that?
I exile it from my existence. I don't need to know these things. I think Andrew Yang would be very nice at Subway. I think he would let them fuck his sandwich up and he wouldn't say a word.
But if he became president...
Would that make him a good president, though? Not speaking up.
Would he issue a presidential pardon to Jared Fogle?
Why?
For inspiring so many people to lose weight.
No.
Okay, let's cut there. Okay.
What happens to Andrew Yang when the Muppets show up in his house?
He gives them $1,000 each. Right.
And they don't go away. They come back.
Well, I tell you one thing.
They don't all expect them to just.
They
go
don't
away.
all become artists. They just spend the money on drugs.
No, I think a lot of people would just spend the money on stupid shit online.
Yes, I think the whatever the current year version of the fidget spinner would have excess sales every month.
It would all go right back into Amazon.
So
where he says he's going to take the money from.
What is the theme of our podcast?
Amazon, get on that.
What is our podcast about?
Stuff and nonsense, like Mary Poppins.
Is it about people flailing
Poppins.
around so much that anyone listening can't take their hand off the volume button because their voices just keep going in and out? If you spit on me right now, I'm canceling everything.
We are the Muppets. You can't turn it off because the TV's already off. If we named our podcast
Christ.
The Muppets, would we get sued by Jen Henson Company?
Yes. The answer is yes.
But what if they just don't? What if we found out they just don't have any kind of copyright or anything on that?
What if we called it the Muppets?
Maybe everybody
like
just...
M-U-H puppets. Muppets. The Muppets.
Muppets.
They're like, no, that sounds too similar. You're getting sued. Oh, what was that voice I just did? Cut there. Okay, let's move on.
I was going to say...
No,
wait.
No.
Wait, stop. I'm sorry.
What if this were the last people? What if this was the final transmission from us to the world and we disappeared? What is the last thing you want people to know? That you saw some Muppets come to you in the middle of the night?
No, I didn't. Someone else did, and I found it highly disturbing, but intriguing at the same time.
Just the notion that it could happen.
Yes, I mean that's the kind of stuff that rainbows and mysteries are made of.
I think it's a collective mass delusion. I think those things happen.
I think we're building a mystery. Like
I think
Natalie Merchant.
I think these UFO encounters were thousands. Where half the city says they saw UFOs over the city. I think that's in most cases those are mass delusions. Also,
do you think Do you think Natalie Merchant disappeared in the underground like the girl did? Or what is it called? The Upside Down?
Let's ask Alanis Morissette. Because obviously
if you went to the Upside Down, do you just see Natalie Merchant and Alanis Morissette like cocooned down there?
No, I see...
Frozen like linen.
I see Alanis Morissette as a bridge to Natalie Merchant because she maintained fame, I think, more successfully and for a more prolonged period than Natalie Merchant. But in the beginning, they did overlap so that the roots are there. The roots are grown together. They just went apart. And Alanis Morissette's roots kept going and Merchant's roots didn't.
I thought you were going to say died.
You don't want to think about these women having roots, do you? It's just
Are
bad.
we Australian? Is somebody going to get fucked?
What?
Australians, they root people. That's how they talk about sex. I learned that from HBO.
When you have root access, it means you have access over the whole system.
The whole system.
So are you saying when Australians make love, they require super user root access?
I don't think they think that far ahead. I don't think they're thinking in that vein. Anyway, what if Parker Posey was the Muppet? What if Parker Posey was the Muppet?
I'm not
in her sultry voice and
I'm
her,
not
her
interested in Parker Posey enough that I would want to imagine her in situations she's not actually in. My brain can't be motivated to do the heavy lifting to place her in those situations.
What if she was the one going down on Dave Coulier at the Tasty Freeze?
But in my mind, I'm trying to create that, but it's just putting Alanis Morissette where Parker Posey would be. It's saying they look similar enough that we're not.
We're talking about
proxy Posey. She's a proxy. These are dark-haired white women, and they all look similar enough that we're not actually going to face swap them. It's the same person.
We're referencing the Tasty Freeze. So just swap Dave Coulier for John Cougar Mellencamp.
In my mind, Dave Coulier
can you
looks
see
like...
Parker Posey going down on him?
I can't convince my brain at the moment that Dave
Would
Coulier
he
does
stop
not...
that?
I can't convince my brain at the moment that Dave Coulier doesn't have Jeff Daniels' face. And Jeff Daniels is also from Michigan, so maybe there's just kind of big, beefy, blonde guy that comes from Michigan.
It's something in the water.
Something in the air. Pure Michigan.
Yeah. Anyway, to but can you think that he would just like actually put his hand on her forehead? Like, no. This is crazy.
You're going to have to, like an enfeebled person, take my hand and walk me into this situation you're asking me to consider. Who is pushing who away and who's where?
John Cougar Mellencamp behind the Tasty Freeze with Parker Posey.
So that
would
man
he
who
let her go down
once
on him, or
famous...
would he know that was some crazy pants?
You're talking about the man who once famously sang about Jack and Diane, and he also talked about the walls. The walls come tumbling down. I don't know.
Not The Wall. That's Pink Floyd.
Well, what did John Cougar sing?
I don't know, because he's not as prolific.
Or maybe he is, but...
Only in Detroit, Michigan.
Or in parts of Canada, or maybe he's made...
He's in the Bryan Adams...
For all you know, John Mellencamp, for all you know, holds the record for albums released. He could have released 1,000 albums, so maybe he's the most maybe he's the Telemann of he's like horrible hockey rink music.
He's like Viper the rapper. It's like
no, because
300 albums
a
year.
Because no one's like that.
No one is like Viper.
He's one of a kind.
He really, truly is. I so badly want to tell my story about meeting him.
And I badly want to tell you, you didn't. That was just some other guy.
It was him. Oh my God, it was amazing. I was working at Starbucks, and it was one of those early, busy mornings, and there was a very long line, and I was just, kind of robotically putting the names in for drinks, and
yes, that's why Starbucks is going to replace its employees with robots.
Yeah.
Because they do everything robotically.
That's why I'm yang-gang. But... So I'm just robotically, hitting all the buttons, putting the names in, getting people through the line, and I'm not looking up a whole lot. And I asked for the name, and he says Viper, and I just look up, and it's him. I mean, you see his face, and there's like almost a halo, an aura around it, like and I say the rapper, and without missing a beat, he goes, yeah. Just like that, just like, yeah. And I just flipped out, and I left my station because, the job is not as important as meeting Viper the rapper.
You showed me the picture.
And I went around and cut into the line, and I said, I have to have a picture.
And you handed your phone to one of your coworkers, and they took a picture.
No, I didn't. My coworkers were all ignoring this. And my manager and my manager's manager was there that morning, and they were trying to ignore what was happening. A lady in line, and she was so excited. It was like one of those yoga pant wearing white ladies, and she was like, I don't know what's happening, but this is so exciting. And she grabbed my phone, and she took 2 pictures of me with Viper, and he was just he was so chill about all of it. Like, yeah. Like this, he acted like this happened to him all the time.
So what people must be riveted in suspense to know what could possibly be my opposition to the authenticity of this story. In the picture you showed me, the man you're hugging to me resembled John Sally, who's like an older, middle-aged, bald black man. And I said, is that what Viper looks like at this point?
If you look at the face, it's his face. And I don't know, it was almost like a psychic thing. Like, when I heard the name,
or is he just
knew.
Racist?
No, okay. I'm telling you, I heard the name, and I just knew that it was him. And he responded so naturally to that question. It was good. It was him.
But what if you'd said Viper, like the basketball player? What if you just said, yeah? What if he just said that to anything?
So this is like a mental patient?
Are you Viper, like the HVAC repairman? Yeah.
But why would he? Why are you trying to take this from me?
Because he's chill, and he just flows.
What?
No one can take it from you. You still met an amazing person. It just might not have been the amazing person you thought it was. You just could have met an amazing plumber, an amazing,
okay, ask me what he ordered.
I don't care. What did he order?
2 white mochas, and he had his own cups. And they were all blinged out. One for him, one for his lady, who was out in the car.
We now know exactly what it would take to completely derail the podcast in a spectacular way. What would send Harrison Ford flying off that train?
Why would Harrison Ford be listening to our podcast or any podcast? I don't think he does.
No, there's a scene in The Fugitive where he flies off a train that derails.
Yes, I know, but I'm just saying he's not listening to the podcast.
I don't think he's listening to anyone. Is he still married to Callista Flockhart?
That's his old lady.
He's definitely not listening
ball
to her.
and chain.
His old lady, who's 20 years younger than him.
I think you have to think that way to be in that kind of relationship.
She used to be too young for me. Now she's too old for me.
But what are you saying, that he's also too old now to get what he actually wants, so he has to stay with her?
I think he would.
Is he some kind of cretin?
I think
should Kylo Ren have slain him?
I think if he flew one of his prop planes
down
into her bush, he would immediately crash.
Oh, but didn't he fly a plane into Anne Heche's bush in a movie where they're stuck on an island?
For some reason, that just made me laugh.
He came to her window.
No one saw that film, Mariah.
There's a film.
Is it called 7 Days and 7 Nights?
I don't know, but I know there's a film where he's a grizzled old something or other that flies a plane, and it's a really old-fashioned plane, like the kind that you saw in the mythical 40s.
I'm going to say something,
Indiana Jones.
And I'm going to say something that's really worth saying. Harrison Ford wasted some of his last, like, really prime years when he was still in his 50s, like in his 50s, like now approaching
that's so
80s.
That's prime for a man and not for a woman.
No, not every man, but for Harrison Ford, because he's the kind of man that wears that age really well. It was like he was peaking at that point, and he wasted those years on a really terrible string of films, including like What Lies Beneath.
For the same reason
7
that he
Days and
wears
7
that
Nights.
age well, I think he shares that with someone like Sean Connery, but the men who tend to wear that age well also tend to be...
Extreme Measures was the one where he was like a doctor with Brendan Fraser. There was like several others really horrible films. We could do a whole podcast about Brendan Fraser, so don't even mention him.
But
put that name in your back pocket.
But I think they tend to be the men that also, they know they need to do something pop culturally to be relevant, but they're not exactly sure what that is.
Yeah, I think in a way...
and they fumble around.
You're right.
And trust
Harrison
other
Ford
people.
he got an earring at some point. He seems very vulnerable to like following trends and like and almost...
But not understanding them. He doesn't have his own
and
ideas
almost
about
like
it. He just knows he needs to do something like this.
In a youthful kind of way. Like a younger person who doesn't understand exactly what's going on, but they want to be part of the scene.
It's like a re-you thing. Like mentally, he's not quite sure who
like he's
he is
2 steps behind
wants.
everyone else, and by the time he follows the trend, by the time he gets the earrings, the cool kids are 2 steps ahead. So he's constantly chasing them.
No,
and
it's more like you just don't really know what to do with yourself.
No,
but
it's
you know
exactly
you need to do
what I
something.
just said, and you need to accept that. Anyway, what were some of the other really terrible films during that stretch he was in? There was like a submarine movie, K-9, The Widowmaker, where he did like a horrible, horrible accent, a Russian accent.
Yeah.
Didn't see that one.
He needs to stay in his lane.
The Devil's Advocate with Brad Pitt.
He's very good at playing who he plays.
Did you know he was in so many bad films? Did you see The Devil's Advocate?
I didn't see them. I saw the Anne Heche one. I think it was on television. It reminded me like maybe he was thinking he was doing something sort of... Because for the same reason that he played Rooster, the gnarled old sheepdog in Pets too. I think he in some ways he's confused about parts. Other ways he's just gravitating to a role that's sort of what he idealizes and mythologizes in his mind.
Oh my God! Can you do you imagine? do you realize the tremendous?
I was going somewhere with that.
Not anymore. Do you remember? Do you realize the tremendous amount of luck Harrison Ford had in simply meeting George Lucas, which placed him both in Star Wars and Indiana Jones. The world would not know who that man was if he hadn't met George Lucas. He owes his entire career to him. American Graffiti, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all three are George Lucas. Mm-hmm. He owes everything to Lucas. How dare he ever criticize Lucas's dialogue?
Has he?
Yes, he famously said, "You can write this shit, but you can't say it," about the Star Wars script.
No, he never should have said that. But
no, you don't bite the hand. Don't bite the hand.
Does Lucas ever bite his own hand by accident, vigorously feeding himself?
Do you think?
It's just like he's going at it.
You can criticize Lucas in many different ways, but I think he knows. I think he's perfectly aware of the physics involved in eating a Hungry Man TV dinner. Where the fork is, where his hand is, where the tray is.
Do you think he's eaten at a Panda Express? Because that seems about his speed.
You make it seem like if you opened it up like a shark, it would just be filled with Hungry Man TV dinner trays because he wouldn't know when to stop eating. I don't think that person makes Star Wars. That person doesn't make American Graffiti. You're talking.
No, but I mean, it's almost like a dog getting excited, like a food frenzy, and he knows when to stop. But maybe while he's doing it, he's not really thinking about it.
Or maybe he got a taste for plastic.
like William H. Macy saying he eats the stickers on the fruit. And everybody, like, how do you avoid that?
Or he saw the Sarlacc in Return of the Jedi, and said, "I want to try that. It just eats everything. I'll try that."
I don't think Lucas tries new things.
He made Red Tails.
But I mean that he did it in a very old-fashioned sort of way, in a Lucas sort of way, which really neutralized that film.
So like a film he would have produced and had been directed by Spielberg, but wasn't directed by Spielberg, so everything that would have been good about it was removed. Mm-hmm. And it was just the kind of sterile Lucas husk with no engagement and energy that would have been given by a real, auteur.
It was that guy that your parents know, and for some reason they're like, you got to meet this guy. He knows a lot about this one subject because he worked in this industry for so and so many years.
And he made a cool slideshow for someone's funeral. So
and then he shows up and he's talking about it.
That was really random.
It's not very interesting, and he's not engaging in a conversation. He's just talking at you.
So what were you saying earlier about Harrison Ford?
Or some old dude talking at you.
Before I horrifically and rudely interrupted you.
I don't know. I'm just saying I think he likes those parts where he's a crotchety old dude and he really, reveres that kind of role, and he wants to slide into that part in his real life. So I think the Anne Heche movie probably reminded him of something like what was that film with Sophia Loren and Cary Grant?
I was going to say
Father Goose.
He probably thought it was like a like what you're trying to say, like a modernization of one of those old 50s or 60s films,
like that wild and crazy
guy. Or it's an older guy with a younger woman, and it's like sort of a summer fall kind of romance. I don't want to say spring fall because Anne Heche wasn't. Anne Heche, even then, I think it was past spring.
Well, no, it's not that. It's that she doesn't seem like a very sensual
person. Parts of her were past spring.
She seems like this. She seems a little scary. She seems a little manic and sterile and sort of astringent. There's something about her that just isn't very exciting or sensual, or she just seems like the kind of person
that Ellen would fall for,
that wants to talk to the manager. That's who she seems like. And then when she talks to him about Muppets on her TV.
The kind of person that Ellen would and did fall for.
Well, we all make mistakes.
Because
I don't want to bash Ellen because I think she has...
I don't want to go down this road.
It's not her fault
that
she had a bad relationship.
We already dragged Melissa Etheridge, so let's stop right now.
No, but
I don't want to hopscotch from Melissa Etheridge to Anne Heche to Ellen DeGeneres.
I think Jerry Seinfeld doesn't like Ellen because of the segment he did with her. He seemed to to really pick at her, and I think she came off really well despite it.
You know,
Why would he not like her?
I've watched comedians in cars getting coffee, but
is it because Jerry Seinfeld has a very old-fashioned view of things, and you shouldn't care about anything, and he doesn't like that she cares about things?
In this moment, as you invoke his name, I can say quite honestly that I don't care what he thinks about Anne Heche or anyone else, or Ellen DeGeneres.
Wait, but we didn't...
Yes.
Okay.
I corrected myself. Like, if you were going to buy a car, would you research what Jerry Seinfeld has said about that car, or would you say, fuck that, I don't care?
No, I don't know. Why is he the authority on cars? I mean...
Because he spends half of comedians in cars getting coffee talking about cars.
Well, would you also research what Jay Leno thinks? I mean, just because they like cars doesn't mean they like cars. Rod Stewart likes trains.
Just because they like something doesn't mean they know anything about it.
I mean, you know... A really inappropriate joke just came to mind. I need to stop.
Maybe we just need to stop.